Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Love this guy. We get to talk to him from time to time. And I think he's kind of liking us, Dan. He seems to be showing up a little bit more. What do you think?
I think he feels sorry for us, actually, is what it is.
Birds of a feather, I think it is. Birds of a feather.
That's what it is. Broken Chains International. You can right off the bat go to brokenchainsintl.com to find out more. We love this guy. He's just got so much wisdom, and I'm still chewing on the relationship, the four stages of relationship. And I was yesterday morning was going in my mind, and I lost one of them. I think the first one was getting. Second is giving, then the fourth one's dying. What's the third one? I forgot.
Now you put him on the spot.
Yeah, I have to draw the picture.
Okay.
So yeah, getting, you become like two ticks with no dog.
Yeah.
Giving might be the second.
Right?
And there were four. I thought there were only three, but maybe there were four.
Okay, that might have been me thinking that there was four.
Maybe that's why you forgot the fourth one.
Yeah. But honestly, I took so much away from that. And then just yesterday, I was going through my mind about something else, not because we were talking to you, but I was like, okay, those four relationships are, number one is definitely getting. Number two is giving. And I think the last one is dying. Well, I know the last one is dying, but I couldn't figure out the third one. But that is so good. Today, we want to talk about passivity here in just a second. First of all, Labor Day is this weekend. You guys staying in town? You going somewhere? Because I read a poll this morning that said that like 78% of the people polled, they're getting out of Dodge. I don't know if you heard me or not there, Dan.
Oh, you were talking to me. I thought you were talking to everybody else. I thought you were talking to the masses. So, yeah, the short answer is no. I think I'm staying home. I'm recovering from golf. I was at a golf fundraiser yesterday, and my right knee did not have to go get an MRI taken on it.
Oh, no.
This week. Yeah. So I showed up for the MRI. Anyway, long story cut short, they canceled me X-ray because you're supposed to have the X-ray before the MRI, so insurance doesn't give you any grief. So say a prayer for me because I got me MRI before me X-ray. But anyway, yeah, I was dragging me torn meniscus, me doc thinks, knee around the golf course yesterday, and it's a strange thing, that golf game. Strange thing, like it's beautiful, God's creation all around you, and they just make it so difficult for you to put a ball in a little hole, for goodness sake, I mean, first of all, the ball is tiny. I mean, it's literally like, I wanted to throw the thing, like, and then they give you a crooked stick to hit the thing with, and all sorts of different levels and bevels, and the only time I get to play this sport is when I do it for charity. And the best way, if you're not a golfer, is these best ball ones, these captains.
Yes.
My goodness.
So would you say then golf is the devil's game, is what you're saying?
No, how could I say that when it came from my part of the world? That was a trick question.
It was the Scottish, though.
It was Scottish, but they're Celtic, so we kind of claim, each other's heritage. It was a reminder that nothing is how it appears. I mean, it appears peaceful, calm, serene.
It's not that at all. For me, at least, it's not at all.
Yeah, like all over the place.
Yeah, we were at Jay and Tracy Arnson and Saving Susan. They were having a golf turn. Well, they had a pickleball and tennis tournament, but we were at the golf course. They wouldn't let us get out on the golf course because they knew that it would be like Caddyshack, and it would just be terrible out there. So yeah.
Kevin Daly on with us. So Kevin, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get full on into passivity. Give us a layman's definition of passivity.
Yeah, I would say basically it's when we are we're not proactive. It's the opposite of being proactive. In Ireland, we're given wonderful compliments all around the world. One of the best compliments is that we're laid back. Passivity is laid back on steroids. You ask for a layman's definition. Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. So
All right. So passivity, I guess, because laid back could be a good thing, but passivity may not be such a good thing. Talk about how you transition from it being laid back and a good thing to not being a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think it depends on what you're soaking in, right? What you're surrounding yourself with, who you're surrounding yourself with, what you're soaking in, as opposed to where you're setting your mind.
Yeah.
Right. Right now, I think a lot of our culture, a lot of our community, I think the world over, where a lot of people are soaking in anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't lead to, for the most part, doesn't lead to most people becoming proactive. And so the way out, I believe, is that we have to set our minds on the King and his authority, right, as opposed to the anxiety that's all around us and the lack of control that's all around us. That would be the beginning. I think when we Colossians 3 talks about setting your mind on things above, setting your affections on Christ, and because our lives are hid, with Christ in God, or in Christ with God, and so yeah, I think when we set our minds on the King, on his authority, that brings stability. I think that brings confidence. I think that calls us out of passivity. The reason why I mentioned this topic today was we've just landed, me and me bride have just landed in the empty nest season.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm quite a spontaneous chap. And so love life, live it to the full as best as I can. Planning is not one of my greatest strengths. Can I get a witness? I don't.
Yeah. Right here.
I'm looking at my notes. I can't even see the hand. But look, what did I do? Didn't your Irish brother book a conference for the very first week of my empty nest?
Oh no!
Phenomenal season,
Leaving your bride all by herself.
Oh, no. I don't know if it was better or worse. It was a virtual conference, right?
Oh, okay.
It's all virtual, right? So that might have been worse because, I was here, but I wasn't really here. And my point is this, that I was passive. I was passive in the planning. I planned for the conference. I didn't really examine the calendar. I made an assumption that it was the same as a lot of other times, and so this is a personal thing for me. I think it's personal for a lot of us lads, but the ladies can be right here with us too, right back from the Garden of Eden. When Adam was was off working in the field somewhere when the devil was tempting Eve to have a bite, and have a better life.
Yeah.
And then until you read the passage, and the passage says that the man was right there with her. Adam was right beside her.
Yeah. And
he says, Jack, squat, nothing.
Right.
And if that's not a picture of passivity, I don't know what is, right? And I think from that time till now, we've been saying something when we should be saying nothing. And we've been saying nothing when it's really, really important for us to say something.
Yeah, right.
And passivity has gripped us, I think. Yeah.
You bring up an interesting point, Kevin, because obviously you're right on the money. I think we all, as like you say, lads, struggle with that. Give us kind of a breakdown of there's got to be a balance, right? Because what is too much aggression? Just taking over, kicking butt, taking names, bull in the china shop, and what is just kind of it'll work out, whatever. What give us a good balance and maybe the steps to get there.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I think we all live in one of three spaces. We either live driven lives, and that D I would use to describe what you just depicted, Rick, where we're charging, we're plowing forward, and it's driven. And I don't think God's called us to be driven, right? The other opposite of that is drifting. That would be where passivity would show up.
That's good.
Just drifting along, right? And if we're not intentional, right, and this is why we got to become proactive. If we're not intentional, we'll all drift, right? The second law of thermodynamics, it's the only science rule I ever remember from my whole school days. Second law of thermodynamics, they told me that everything that is in a state of order, becomes disordered in time, right? Take your garage or your garage.
I like Gary.
I'm still learning their language. Yeah, take your garage. I mean, man, I can tidy that thing, and it doesn't take days. And it's like the stuff's having babies out there. Like So we either live driven, or we live drifting lives, or we live life by design. And this is where, when we seek the King, he gives us discernment, which gives us direction, which directs our steps. And I think a lot, we've just been raised to be so self-sufficient and driven. And I don't believe it's come from a bad place. Like I believe our parents want us to be self-sufficient and want us to be successful. But I think when it comes to our inner world, right, and our outer world, a lot of times we find ourselves as lads stuck in passivity or stuck in this state of drivenness. And so I think Jesus invites us back to live a life of intentionality, a life of proaction, but as directed by the King, right? Not and his word, rather than being directed by the world, right? And when we show up very differently, then our perspective is different, so our presence is radically different. Then, that makes sense.
Yeah. We're talking with Kevin Daly, the CEO of Broken Chains International. Broken Chains at intl.com is the website you can go to. So with passivity, what would be the danger of if you stay in passivity, or even if you stay in the opposite, which I guess is aggression? It could lead to fill in the blank. What would that be? What is the danger there?
If we stay in drivenness or in anger, is that your question? Or if we stay
if we stay in passivity, or the opposite, if we stay in drivenness, what are the dangers there?
So sometimes drivenness and anger kind of go hand in hand. I'll say one of the dangers is burnout. Right? Where have you ever felt angry just because this thing was ringing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Might be a sign of burnout, maybe. Or, I don't know. But I'm not moving to meddling yet. But I think if we stay driven, I'll tell you another confession. I feel like I'm back in my former life, but anyway, James tells us, confess your faults. There was one day where my gorgeous bride said, "Dude, you're like a Vulcan," and I'm like, "Well, what's a Vulcan? It's been a long time since I watched Star Wars
or Star Trek, either one."
Star Trek, yeah,
Very nice,
right? Like, this is real. Anyway, so she says, and I'm like, "What?" She says, "You're like a Vulcan." I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, you have no emotion, and I'm a pretty emotional chap, And it was because I was pushing. I think we tend to look to our activities, we tend to look to performance to gain love, acceptance, worth, security sometimes, and drivenness helps us, stay on that path. So burnout is one. I would say brokenness is another, and in God's equation, brokenness, is beautiful. I think God has to wait for us to burn out or come to brokenness before we surrender.
Yeah,
and we put the King back in his rightful place, right in our stories.
Yeah. Now, what about the opposite? For if you stay in passivity, what is the danger there?
Yeah, I think apathy is the danger, right?
Yeah.
I think with all of it, I think one thing that's just really important to remember is that belief drives behavior. right? So until the beliefs change, behavior is not going to change, whether that's drivenness or whether that's passivity. Yeah, drifting, right? So, but I think some of the extremes or some of the consequences of being passive is apathy for one. I would say another, and I'm just seeing faces in front of me sitting across the table in our intensives where couples either burn out or they are incredibly passive, and one of the team says something massive has to change here, dude, or I don't know if we're going to make it, or they're just aware that they're burnt out. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, we'll have a chap coming, and he's like, my marriage is grand, me ministry and my leadership, no complaints whatsoever. But I'm waking up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed. You know, I apathy has like descended, right? And I need a plan to get out of this. So I would say when you live in passivity, I think apathy dominates. I think cynicism sometimes can creep in. I think, and then it just bleeds into bitterness, resentment. When I get a couple in front of me, when they're going 90 to the dozen, they're having an intense moment of fellowship right in front of me. That's a fight. Just
yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay.
An intense moment of fellowship. Okay.
Yes. To me, they're somewhat embarrassed at times, but to me, I'm grateful because I get a front row seat into what it looks like, normally behind the scenes. And there's still passion there. There's still care there. When you stop caring, when you live in passivity. I was on the golf course yesterday, as I was telling you earlier, and one of the chaps that I was with basically said, look, dude, my marriage broke and I half blame myself. He said, I just stopped caring. I stopped pursuing, I stopped living a passionate life. All of those things happen when you live in the land of passivity. Passion disappears and purpose, I think, gets lost along the way when we live lives of passivity as well. And it's incredibly, incredibly sad because anyone who's watching, and there's always people watching, even if it's just your kids or your bride or whatever, like you're sending a message to the people that you're supposed to love most in the world that they're not important. Because everything we do sends a message to the people around us.
That's so good, Kevin. Kevin, Broken Chains International. It's brokenchainsintl.com. Kevin, you mentioned something about, of course, you deal with couples. When you sit down with a couple and there's passivity, there's anger, there's burnout, those type of things. Do you first of all point out the fact that that's where they are? Let's say that they don't know. They're trying to figure it out, obviously, because they're sitting in front of you. But where do you start from that to say, hey, look, this is my observation. You're burnout. You're passive aggressive, blah, blah, blah. And then you put them on a plan. How does that work for you guys?
Yeah. So with every one of us, right, it's important that we know where we are on the map, right? Most people want to get out of where they are to get to a better place, right? Whether that's just improvement or it's like dire straits, like trouble city. A lot of times they come in thinking that their problem is their problem. And if you help us sort out the problem, we'll be grand. Most of the time that the problem that they're coming in with that they think is their problem isn't their problem at all. And that actually is part of the bigger problem. So a lot of people believe that the symptom is the problem. And so we will listen a lot and help them kind of discern and discover where they are on the map, right? And part of that has been honest, right? Romans 8:32 says, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. That is about Jesus, but it's not only about Jesus. It's about what's the truth about me? Yeah, like I deface that. Like I'm still healing from the passivity that I got from me father's father before him, and all the way back to Adam. So God's still healing me of passivity. So we help them figure out where they are, and we help them realize that their behavior is actually rooted in beliefs. And until we deal with the beliefs in their story, the behavior will never change lasting. Everybody can change for a short period of time.
Right.
So we help them get to the root of the challenges that they're facing, which most oftentimes are internal belief set. But at the same time, we're doing a holistic kind of process with them. So we're checking out physicals and making sure that they've gotten physicals before they're coming to see us, at least for our intensives. In our hourly, with our larger team, they're sending them away for a checkup if they haven't had a physical recently, because sometimes there's physiological components that, we just can't ignore. Foolishly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so good. I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard that before, except from you. I think I remember you talking about it last time. Maybe that's common. I don't know, but that's the first time I have ever heard that someone said, okay, let's look at you physically. Maybe it's something that you're struggling with. That's, that's your internal makeup. And then we'll go from there, because, you can go through all the biblical, psychological, and the helps there and still be dealing with something that you're wrestling with. Yeah. Kevin, you always bring it. We should put you on every day. Have the Kevin Daly daily.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Daily with Kevin Daly.
When we were church planters, I used to say, hey, pray daily for the dailies.
Yes, I like it.
We need it.
So hey, real quick, that just brings up something. We got to go to a break in a second. How can we pray for our pastors?
How can you pray for your pastor?
Yeah, pastors, all of us. Because
yes. I would encourage you to pray that we set our minds on the King and things of his kingdom, and on the Prince of Peace, because when we as followers or as leaders set our minds on him and learn about Jesus, the Prince of Peace invades our anxiety and invades our passivity, helps us gain a right perspective, and clarifies the path ahead. It just, and you know what? There is, and I have goosebumps right now because it changes our whole mindset, right? What we set our minds on changes our mindset, and ultimately changes our mentality, no matter what's going on around us. So I think that would be a beautiful prayer, to pray for the ones we love, the ones that lead us, the ones in our community, for them to set their minds on the King, and on the Prince of Peace, our big brother Jesus, because that changes perspectives, changes how we feel inside, and clarifies the path ahead.
That is so good. Kevin Daly, brokenchainsintl.com. You see it there if you're watching Facebook Live and YouTube. And pretty soon there'll be a Kevin Daly Daily. So get ready for that. And I'm sure there are many podcasts and video stuff that Kevin's got that you can take advantage of. Hey, we'll be back. I am Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.